Now to Sydney, where the Shadow Communications Minister is speaking following a meeting with the CEO of Optus.
And also for those families. A process error means that one individual, it seems to me, did something wrong. The fact that one individual in a company can cause such devastation is really questionable. Why has that been allowed to happen? I did ask the CEO questions around the call centre and the fact that people had to call that call centre to alert Optus to the 000 outage. There seems to be failures there as well. And I also question how much the government knew. It was revealed last week in Senate estimates that there was an email between Optus to ACMA, to the Department of Communications and to the Minister's office. Yet, as far as I can see, there wouldn't have just been the emails that were revealed in Senate estimates. If Optus was doing the right thing, they would have alerted the government again and again. Yet the Minister said she did not find out about this until the Friday, when that first email went out on a Thursday. So we are left with lots more questions, and this is such a serious issue. People died. They couldn't pick up their phone and call 000 in their greatest time of need. I have questions around the relationship between Optus and the government and where the failures have been on both. And I put forward amendments in Parliament to strengthen the system, double the fines on telcos that do the wrong thing, and ensure that we have a public register of 000 outages. And I informed the CEO today that that is my plan, to keep pushing on that, because someone has to be held responsible, and right now not enough is being done to protect our Australian citizens. Questions?
Minister, what did you get out of today's meeting?
As I said, I feel like I have a lot more questions than I do answers. Stephen Rue pointed a lot to process failure and that there was human error involved, and I question how can such a big organisation like Optus be reliant on individuals and their capacity and capability in the workplace? And the CEO spoke a lot about waiting until the investigation has been done. But Australians do deserve answers, and I don't think they're getting enough out of Optus, nor enough out of the government. There's too many questions around when the government did actually know about this outage, and how can you have an email go to a wrong address or go to the Minister's office but she didn't know about it? So I think that a lot of work needs to be done to reassure Australians as we approach disaster season with bushfires that the whole 000 ecosystem is going to stand up. And I asked the CEO that question: is he confident that his network is not going to fail again during this season? And I walked away from that meeting with not a whole lot of confidence that this couldn't happen again.
Well, what does Optus and the government need to do to restore trust in the system?
Yeah, I think they need to be more transparent with the Australian people about what's going on. It is quite alarming that human error can cause such devastation in our most trusted and most important telecommunications service. In this day and age where technology rules the world, why did technology fail? Well, if technology didn't fail, how are humans so responsible in such a devastating outage? So I think transparency is key, and just ensuring that they are prioritising this. Speed it up if you have to. Do everything you can. I know that the government wants me to stop talking about this and stop putting the pressure on, but when lives are at risk, there is nothing more important to be raising in the public sphere.
Have you had any further conversations with the government about amendments to the 000 custodian laws?
I have written to the Minister asking if she would accept two of my amendments, which I think are most important. The first being doubling the fine to telcos that do the wrong thing from $10 million to $20 million per breach. And the reason why I did that is because fines are obviously not making an impact, because companies are still doing the wrong thing. So increase those fines and have a public register of 000 outages so Australians can see when telcos are doing the wrong thing. And I point out it's not just Optus that has had failures with the 000 network. The NBN had a failure that resulted in 000 going out. Telstra has been caught up in the past. So it needs to be a focus on the whole 000 ecosystem, and the public needs to know. The public needs to have certainty in this critical service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
You mentioned the ACMR. Does that organisation retain your confidence?
I question that ACMA should be responsible for the investigation when they're part of the failed process, and whether it's really going to be transparent. I also question the bureaucracy. I always question regulation, whether we need more, whether regulation is doing the right thing. I asked a question of Optus today, and he declined to answer that.
And that's where we'll leave that media
right.
conference there by the Shadow Communications Minister, speaking following a meeting with the CEO of Optus, saying she was left with more questions than answers.